which one you want to do. Which one you want to do first, Maestro? Because you just watched it, or
Sure, yeah. Let's do Maestro first because
let's
I
do
just watched it.
Maestro. That one's a little fresher for me too.
Yeah. Okay. So I just finished Maestro. And I have to say, overall, I enjoyed the movie. However, I feel like it kind of fell into a trap that biographies sometimes fall into, where it was like, you should know a lot about the person that the movie is about before you watch the movie, because otherwise it's going to be like a little bit of like, and this is a person and this is another person, and oh, cameo, this person shows up, and I was like, I don't fucking know who any of these people are. But
Yeah, that's a weird thing for me. Did you know who Leonard Bernstein was going into this?
I knew that he did West Side Story, and that's about it.
I just knew him from the REM song where it's like "Da-da-da-da-da-da-da, Leonard Bernstein."
That was playing in the end of the movie, yeah.
Yeah, and like that's the only time I've ever heard his name, so I knew nothing about him. So yeah, I mean, I probably would have. Well, I don't know. Maybe I would have liked it even less if I if I had known like the actual accurate details of his life, because some of the reviews are like that. Oh, it doesn't capture his life.
I also think that the story was presented as more of like a series of tableaus than it was
Yeah.
like an actual narrative.
Yeah,
It played
the
with
story was
time.
weird.
It played with time and location super loosely. And we were kind of like jumping all over the place because the story at its core was about Felicia and Leonard and their relationship with one another, rather than it was like the story of Leonard Bernstein, which is which is what I thought it was going to be when the movie started. And he gets subbed in to conduct in front of on like short notice, no rehearsal, and he goes out there and he kills it because he's a genius. And so then I thought it was going to like follow kind of his life. And then it just didn't do that and kind of bounced all around and was like, okay, and now like he's old and he's in his 50s and his marriage was failing type thing.
Yeah, when you said tableaus, that's a good way of putting it because I feel like the story didn't really come together for me either. It felt like the different parts of the plot were kind of competing with each other rather than working with each other, because you have like his sexuality is a really big part, him like being gay in the 1950s, and then you have obviously the Felicia, like that whole thing is a big part of it, and then in the third act then it just like becomes about cancer basically. So
Yeah.
it's, and all those parts didn't really like, they didn't really marry together for me. I don't know, they just felt kind of disparate, and yeah, like they didn't lead into one another. I don't know, the story was weird.
Yeah, and I felt like it also missed the opportunity to like be like a really good character study of him as well.
Yeah.
Like because there was so much emphasis on Felicia, which I think, it's important to see. I think his sister at some point says like, the dangers of being in my brother's orbit. Like he was such a big and like charismatic and genuine like lover of life that like he kind of like wraps everyone up and like brings them all along with him. But I feel like we never really got to like a deep understanding of what was driving him, and that was started to sort of like get explored a little bit, like the Thanksgiving fight scene that he and Felicia have. I feel like we start to sort of see like her frustration of being this sort of like of not being his person, like the love that she was experiencing when things were in black and white. And so you saw kind of that frustration come out a little bit, but I feel like we didn't really get to the like meat of like why Leonard Bernstein wants to be conducting and composing, and like why
Yeah.
he really wants to do that, because it was just more of like talking about his like accolades and like showing him like conducting in front of a huge crowd.
It doesn't feel like you get too deep into any of the things or really like explore or understand it like in a satisfactory way. And I like the themes that it's dealing with, like being a creative and trying to tap into like truth or whatever. Relationships between creatives can be really hard because they have to like share their lives and then like
Right.
try to find a relationship between their art as well. Don't really get into Felicia's acting at all.
Yeah.
That was kind of interesting, and then we just don't really touch on it or have a scene with that. Um, and then the whole, being gay in the 1950s is interesting and probably pretty perilous, but that like the perils of that never really come in.
Hmm.
Everybody's just kind of like it's there, but
Like
they
that,
don't
like
really talk about it.
people are
And
just like chill with it. It's like, oh yeah, that's just
yeah,
like,
there's like the thing with his daughter, but that's like a
hmm
scene, I guess. Again, it's like there, and the theme is interesting, but it's not explored in a way that really satisfies. I don't know. I like
yeah.
the stuff that the movies that's kind of my attitude toward the movie as a whole is I like the stuff that it's dealing with, but I don't really like how it went about it. I don't really think it explored it as much as it could have.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it's all kind of like a very surface level discussion about it, and I guess that is
Kind of.
sort of the hard part of making a biography because, like we were saying, like we don't know a ton about Leonard Bernstein, so they can't go super in depth because the people who are unfamiliar with Leonard Bernstein are going to be at a loss, while the people who really know his story and like the stuff that he did are going to be like, oh, I get it, but then they can't go too surface level or they disappoint those people. So it's a hard line to walk, and I think that generally they did a pretty good job. I thought the movie was enjoyable. Um, but I do think that they had biographies are hard movies to cater towards an audience, and so I think that they kind of stumbled a little bit there, but it's to no fault of their own. I think it's just the fault of the genre.
Well, biopics are also classic Oscar bait,
Yes,
aren't
that
they,
too.
Liam? That's what
Yes.
a lot of the stuff online is this is an Oscar bait movie. I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
Um,
I will say the last like kind of theme that I'll touch on, I think that there was like kind of like you were saying with the creatives, there was a really interesting dichotomy where he's doing like the TV interview with Felicia where he says that to be a composer, you have to be an introvert because you have to write music. And so you have to be sort of like inside yourself and within yourself. But if you're a conductor or a musician, you have to be an extrovert because you have to like perform the music to the masses. And since he is both, it kind of is this really difficult battle that he has where he has to choose between art, like making his art, or like being with his family, and like which type of art does he like more, does he want more, does he like the attention that comes with being the conductor, does he like the accolades that come with composing music, which is more like fulfilling. And I feel like we never really find out the answer of which he actually wants more, because at the end of the movie he's just like teaching and like partying it up as an old dude, and so we never really get that
and then
answer.
yeah, that was so interesting how he's like it feels like the reason he goes and fucks everyone that he sees and just sleeps around and shit and is like 110% on everything is because he's like afraid of being with his own thoughts or being alone. He's so scared of it, so he just
Right.
wants to be with everyone, and that was really interesting. And it would be cool to have a character study about that, but it's not really a character study because
Yeah.
it's a biopic. I don't know. Those probably don't have to be mutually exclusive, but I feel like the biopic does take away from the character study in this case.
Yeah, I feel like you can't really have two cakes here. And they did kind of try to do that, and I think that's where kind of the movie falls flat. Another quick point: I don't know if this is how Leonard Bernstein actually sounds, but the voice
Bro,
was so
okay, wait, okay.
nasally and cartoonish
So,
that it was
okay,
really hard to
transition,
focus. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
transition. Liam, what did you think about the fucking voice that Bradley Cooper did for this entire movie?
I don't know if that's how Leonard Bernstein actually sounded, but it was incredibly nasally and like very in the back of the throat. And so
It's
he sounded like he was trying to do like a impression the whole time that was like not really working. And so it was kind of cartoonish and distracted me in the middle of the movie because I was like, what the
I
fuck
think
is
I
going
wrote
on?
down that Bradley Cooper sounds like his nose weighs 20 pounds. Because, yeah, it's insane. And in the first scene, So the first scene of the movie is like flash forward to him old,
Yeah.
and he has it's like even more nasally there, and I'm like, ooh, is that going to be the whole movie? And then yeah, it was just that the whole movie. It's like kind of cartoonishly nasally. I was thinking about it too. Like I guess that's what he sounded like in real life. I didn't look at interviews of Leonard Bernstein or something, but even
Yeah.
if he did sound like that, don't do that voice for the guy. And okay, so that goes into what was my least favorite thing about the movie, which is the voices
Uh-huh.
and the actual dialogue scenes, like how they were performed. Do you know what I mean, Liam?
Speak on that a little bit.
What I mean is every fucking dialogue scene in this movie, or at least every scene between Felicia and Leonard, it starts with them talking about like random bullshit, like just small talk that doesn't mean anything, just to kind of lead into the scene. And then the actual meat of every dialogue scene is people like talking over each other and just
Mm.
saying these little like inserts, and then like they'll pause so somebody can say an actual fucking line of dialogue, and then they'll just keep talking over each other, and it got so annoying because it's the entire movie is like that.
I did feel that way. Specifically, there's one scene that I'm thinking of is when they're at like a lunch with another old composer, and he's being like, "They'll never give a orchestra to a Bernstein, so you should change your name to Burns." And so like, and so I do think in
Right.
that scene, the talking over each other was really bad, and I had to turn on subtitles to be like, what the fuck is actually like what's being said right now? Because everyone's just overlapping chatter, and then, but like that was I think that's the one scene I can at least I guess think of. Although I guess in the arguments I mentioned the Thanksgiving argument earlier that Felicia and Leonard have, like that's a similar thing where like she's basically like attacking him and like letting out all of her frustrations, and he's just being like, no, you don't understand, like it's really hard for me to be a musician, and she's like, I fucking hate you.
Okay,
That's like their
I
whole
mean,
thing.
I guess it wasn't as big a thing. It's probably not as big a thing for other people, but I noticed it in
Hmm.
every single scene between Leonard and Felicia. They would just talk over each other to make it sound more naturalistic, but it was just annoying. Um, and I hated Bradley Cooper's accent. I hated who played Felicia again. Everybody loves her.
Let me look up.
Carrie Mulligan. I hated her
Yeah.
accent. That I again, maybe it was period accurate, but it's just like this mid-Atlantic. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe they played it up to make it feel more like, because it's trying to capture that like old cinema magic and or feel like a stage play or something. But it's
Uh-huh.
just I hated her accent too. It took me a really long time to like not be annoyed by it, and by the time I wasn't, the movie was over. Um, but yeah, the
I
dialogue was just really rough in this movie for
I
me.
didn't mind the dialogue, nor did I mind the accents, because I think I did buy in a little quicker than you did maybe.
I know it's a pet peeve thing for me.
Yeah, because I didn't mind the transatlantic accents, even though I know that's like not how people actually fucking
Yeah.
talked back then.
Yeah.
But I will say that in overall terms of the movies, of the movie, the black and white part I think was a lot more enjoyable than most of the color part.
Probably.
Because I
Yeah.
thought that the black and white part was very like aesthetically pleasing. It was very dreamlike. It felt nostalgic because you're in the period piece, and Bradley Cooper is being Bradley Cooper and is being super charismatic and charming, and he's this super lovable guy that everyone like gravitates around, and he guides the flow of conversation so well, and he's so like, I don't know, he has such an air to him that is really just
Talks over
magnetic.
everybody.
He does talk over everybody, but I thought that it was like, at least for me, I was like, okay, I get like why everyone wants to fuck him, because like he's awesome. Like this
Okay,
guy's
I
really
want to
cool.
fuck him.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah.
It has
and
that sick transition into the fucking like orchestra hall with
Oh,
from his
right.
bedroom. Remember
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
That in that first scene when it pulls back and it's like the orchestra hall, that is all CG, and that was very noticeable for me at least.
A little bit.
And then it zooms back into him.
The hallway part was cool.
Yeah, I did. Talking about the acting just in general, I thought the acting was good. I thought that Bradley Cooper was pretty believable. Again, not a huge knowledgeable fan of Leonard Bernstein, but I thought that he did a good job, and I thought that the woman playing, what was her name again? You said
Something person.
Come
Forget
on,
already.
you got it.
Rooney Mara, Carey Mulligan.
Carey Mulligan. I thought that Carey Mulligan did a great job as well, portraying kind of like this frustrated, like wife of this man who can't give all of himself to her.
I want to say that they did a good job. But also I hated watching them talk back and forth. So
Like, I want to say congratulations, but also I hated it, so never mind.
yeah, kind of hated.
I guess my last point of the movie. Let me take a real quick look at my notes. Okay, two more things. The oneer in the church where he is just conducting his ass off up there, and he's like sweating and he's like jumping around and just being all crazy. That scene is awesome. I thought that was really good, and the music moved me because the music in this is obviously really good. It's a movie about a fucking conductor, so of course the music is good. And I really enjoyed that whole one take. I wish that it was a true oneer and it actually like got through the whole thing as like one in camera movement, but it weirdly cuts to like the violins jamming for a second, and then it goes back to Bradley Cooper for like a mostly oneer for the rest of it. And I was like, what happened there? Like they just had to cover it. Like it didn't fully make it through in the way I think it was supposed to. But I did really enjoy that scene, and I thought that the music was really beautiful.
Wait, didn't you say you had a second thing?
Oh yeah, and then my second thing was, what does a conductor do?
Oh my God.
Don't know.
This is what I was thinking at the end. It's like, it never actually explains this to like the lay person.
Right.
Because obviously if you like knew who Leonard Bernstein was, you probably know about orchestra, but I don't know shit about orchestra. And my entire life, I realized at the end, I'm like, what the fuck do conductors do? Like, do they just keep time? Or like remind them when to come in, like because they already know the music.
Yeah, because like they've all rehearsed this, and they also like all
they've
have
all rehearsed
the music,
this 2,000 times.
Yeah, the music in front of them in like notes that they can read, and so then they
just put a metronome on the stand and like they just count to the fucking beat. There's that scene at the end where he's teaching like the new black conductor that he's fucking like how to do it, and he's like, oh, you want to add an upbeat here, and I'm like, okay, so like does the conductor like make it different every time? Like what is he actually doing on the stage?
Right. And like,
is everyone just playing by the seat of their pants the whole time?
Yeah, these musicians must be crazy to be able to play like just so like improv basically the whole time. I also thought it was funny that like he's just being like, it's not working for me, and then he walks up and he like does pretty much
here's what you want to do
the same thing, and then everyone claps behind him, and I was like,
and then everyone clapped. No, he added an upbeat, Liam. He raised his arm for like half a second.
It sounds like the exact same thing that the other guy was doing.
He raised his arm, and then he was like, oh, okay, you got to raise your arm. Nah, I got you. You want to fuck later, Leonard?
Yeah.
And then the last shot of this movie is so fucking weird because it's like this club full of 20-somethings, and then just this like 80-year-old decrepit, sweaty Bradley Cooper with like white hair, just bedraggled, like dancing like he's senile.
He's fucking
in the middle of
the
floor.
He's naying with a red Solo cup in his hand, and he's never looked more free.
Scary.
Yeah,
it was scared at the end.
It's no past lives.
Oh. Okay.
I'm prepared for just to sit back. I'm gonna put my mic down and let you just go off on past lives. All right, you want to stop the recording there?
God, when did I watch this? Because I watched this a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was, yeah. It's been almost, it's been over a month since I saw Past Lives. But my opinions about it are still pretty strong. um, what did you think of it? You go first.
So I watched this last night.
Hmm.
I unfortunately had read your review
Yeah, it's
of
the
Past
thing.
Lives
It's been up there for a while.
before I watched it because I've been meaning to get around to it sooner because
I hope that didn't color it for you.
everybody and their moms was talking about how awesome this movie
People love
is.
this fucking movie.
And I watched it and I thought much of the same things that I think you thought.
Okay.
The movie is basically like 10 scenes. Nothing really happens in any of them.
Not. Is that your review? I haven't read your review because I didn't want to.
No,
That's a great
I
review,
haven't.
though. This movie is 10 scenes. Nothing happens in any of them.
Yeah.
That's true. That's literally true. This is like Small Talk the movie. Is it
Yeah.
not?
You
God.
did say that in your review, and I definitely agree.
This movie made my skin crawl for
out of cringe.
the whole thing. It's cringe, you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie is cringe. This is a movie that I would describe as that. I didn't really like Maestro, but it's not cringe. This movie is.
Yeah.
I mean, where do we start on this?
I guess
yeah, every scene's the fucking same, and like nothing happens. So
let's start with the most obvious points, which is the silences that are pervasive throughout the film, because most of the film's runtime is just Nora and Hae Sung staring at one
each other.
and that's the
yeah,
movie.
and it's supposed to be like a words unsaid stare, like a romantic stare or something, but it's just fucking weird. And there's like no score. And
I think that the reason that the stares and the unsaid words part didn't work for me was because we don't know who these characters are. We don't know who Nora is outside of her relationship with these two men. Like, I don't know who.
Ooh, does it pass the Bechdel test?
It doesn't.
I don't think it does. No, yeah, it doesn't.
Because
there's only three. There's only three characters, and two of them are guys.
There is the scene in Korea where Nora's mom is talking to Hae Sung's mom. They are talking about each other.
They're talking about a man. They're talking about Hae Sung.
Well, but they're also talking about immigrating and like generally that. So I guess I think that maybe passes the baton.
Okay.
Although I don't know if Hae Sung's mom is actually named like a named character because she's only in that
right,
one
that
scene.
is part of it. Two named female.
Right.
Okay.
So maybe it doesn't pass. But yeah. So I don't know who Nora is outside of either her husband or her relationship with Hae Sung, because we don't get to see like any fucking insight into her work, like what she does for
These characters have
rehearsal.
no interiority.
Right, she's like a
Can I say that?
playwright, but you can say that. But she's a playwright, but we don't actually see any of her work or any of like what she actually does, other than like be in bed with her husband, and that's like the whole thing. Like, there's not really
Be in bed.
there's no depth to the characters, but the movie relies on a depth that it thinks it has, but it doesn't, because
there's no depth to the characters themselves. It's all about their relationship, but there's no relationship either. It thinks that there is,
right?
Because fill in that silence with whatever you want, but no, there's nothing there, and they don't have any chemistry. But that's probably because of the directing and the silences and the shitty dialogue and stuff.
I would say the chemistry is an interesting point, because I was reading reviews and I've seen arguments on both sides of that people are saying that they have chemistry, other people saying that they have zero chemistry, but that's also the point. Like, and I don't know where I fall. I think that I think I fall on the side of I believe that that they do have chemistry. Especially, I think that Nora and Hae Sung have more chemistry than her and Arthur, because I don't think that they really have any chemistry together. But it is sort of like that K-drama like stare where like things move extremely slowly. So I personally think that Hae Sung and Nora had more chemistry, but I don't think it was enough to carry a believable relationship, is the thing. Like, it was almost there, and then it fell through.
I wanted to fucking fast forward every scene that that Nora and Hae Sung had together. I thought they had negative chemistry because
Yeah.
I couldn't bear to watch them. There's a little more chemistry between her and I kept calling him Lin-Manuel Miranda because he looks like him to me. Does he look like him?
I can see it.
He
Yeah,
kind of
it's in the
his voice kind of sounds like him.
it's in the face shape and like the way his nose and beard kind of come to a
Yeah,
point.
yeah. The way he
Yeah.
has the same kind of beard, it's like kind of patchy. But
Yeah, and and he's got sick raps as well.
yeah. But they had, one chemistry. Nothing much there either. Um,
And
yeah,
and the thing is, like, it's frustrating because like there are glimmers of like interesting dialogue that is brought up. Like they had that
kinda.
whole the conversation with that she has in bed with her husband, where he says like, you dream in Korean, and I wish I wanted to learn it so I can understand how you dream. Like
That was
that's all
on the
very
border for me.
romantic. It is.
It was
but it's-
getting into like indie film, like
Yeah.
it was kind of there, like oh, what? Because you expand my life every day, and I don't know if I expand yours. Like that's kind of deep, but it's also kind of like melodramatic, vapid. I don't know because we also don't really know like who the fuck they are as characters. So I don't know. That was one of the better scenes in the movie.
Right. That's one of the better scenes, and it would be so much better if we knew who these characters were. But we get like zero time in Korea with Haesung or Nora as kids. They also don't really have a romantic relationship strong enough to like warrant him being so obsessed with her.
Over. He's not that into you. It's so fucking. It's like. It's because we don't have any scenes with Haesung besides like this restaurant scenes where he just seems like he doesn't even like his friends.
Yeah.
But we don't even get scenes with him, so he doesn't feel like because he doesn't feel like an actual character, and because he is obsessed with Nora after 20 years, it comes off as creepy. It came off as predatory to me. like bro, give it a rest. Like you're a good-looking guy, you're in your 35, whatever. Like just settle down in Korea, find another girl and move on. Like wait, you fucking gonna kidnap her or something?
Because they have no romantic like connection or like any romantic action. They haven't even kissed. They like Skype for like a month, and then he thinks about her for 12 more years until he goes and visits her in New York and like sits in his hotel room like a robot until it's time to go see her again.
Stares at the wall until his next scene.
Right. Yeah.
Greta Lee.
I would say that while I do think that he and Nora had like a little bit of chemistry, his scenes when he's by himself, he has like negative charisma. It's like the
Negative
opposite-
Riz.
Negative Riz. It's like the opposite of Bradley Cooper in Maestro, where he's like everybody loves him and wants to be with him. Like he's just super awkward and like is kind of like shuffling at his feet and like staring at the ground.
Yeah, that's
for
the
like
part that's
all
like
of his
makes
scenes.
it creepy. He's just awkward and
Right.
I would like walk to the other side of the street if I saw him coming towards me. I hate this guy.
And again, there are like, I think that there's some interesting stuff about like being an immigrant and
You're Korean, Liam.
Right, I'm Korean, and then like the stuff that she was saying about like how he makes her feel more Korean, but also at the same time less Korean. Like I was like, that's like something that I feel like immigrants can understand, and like maybe my mom, if she was, if she had spent more time in Korea before she was adopted, like maybe that's something that she would connect to more. But it's just, I feel like, you dip your toe into all of this stuff, but there's never any actual submersion. And then we're back to scene of Haesung and Nora staring at one another and like husband getting cucked. And that's the whole movie.
Can we talk about he's a cuck? Okay. When I wrote that, can we talk about the worst scene in the movie? Probably.
Sure.
Which is it's at the very end. So you probably remember it. Where they're having their cuck date, and oh god, just the layers of awkward because no one has chemistry. The dialogue's weird, and the
language
pauses,
barrier.
and it's language barrier. Yes, just these added layers of why am I watching this? I just want to turn it off. And then they get to that bar. It's like 4 a.m. It's where the first shot of the movie. So we're back there. Wow.
Which, by the way,
And
the first shot of the movie with like the exposition, like literally explaining the dynamic between the characters, it's a pretty egregious way to start a movie.
yeah, a
Like,
big indie movie
oh
moment.
my god, they're not even including the white guy. Like, what do you think his
Oh my
story
God,
is?
it ends where it began, just like in Eternal
like-
Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Ooh, also a
Which
bad move to talk about a better movie during the movie.
Fuck. Okay. Anyway, I got sidetracked because I was talking about all the extra bad stuff that I got reminded of. But at the end, I'm just gonna the end scene. They're at the bar. It's 4 a.m. They're just talking and it's awkward. And then, like the last, I guess like second to last scene, this big poignant. It's supposed to be poignant scene of Hae-sung and Nora talking, and he's finally kind of bearing his heart, but then also it's sad because he's like, I feel like in another life we would have been something, but in this life I need to let you go. Fucking finally, Hae-sung. But so he's having what's supposed to be a very heartfelt, poignant scene at the
Right.
bar with Nora, and his performance is fine, and the camera's like slowly pushing in, but
Yeah.
the whole time for this like 5 minute Oscar moment, you can see Lin-Manuel Miranda's elbow in the left side of the frame, just reminding you that her husband is right there listening to, like, afraid of getting cucked, listening to this hotter Korean guy, like, say sappy words to his wife. And he's,
Well,
it's like
and
comical.
he can't really understand. He probably catches it every like sixth word or so.
Yeah, he understands a little bit. He's like, Hae-sung's like really close and like talking
Right.
tenderly. And he's just, this whole time he's been afraid that like Hae-sung's just going to kidnap her and take her back to South Korea, and they're just going to live out their lives together. And he's literally in the shot during this heartfelt scene,
Right.
this guy who's getting cucked. I was like laughing for that whole scene because how am I supposed to take this seriously when he's if you panned over one foot, it'd just be him like awkwardly sipping his ginger beer or whatever.
Yeah, he's like,
And it
kind
was-
of like rolling the glass in his hand, like smiling at them, and then
It
looking
was
back at the
like
ground.
in a different movie, it would be a punchline.
Right.
Like, it was baffling to me, and that a lot of the movies like that where it's
Yeah.
supposed to be heartfelt and it just comes off as weird or comical or uncomfortable or stilted or awkward or I don't know. I hated this.
and like again, I think that there are some good lines. I think that the movie is shot really well. I like the film look.
I wanted to shoot a line during this movie. Does that make sense? You don't really shoot a line.
No, you don't. I think you maybe put that one in your back pocket. Try again later. But I think that there are like tidbits of interestingness, but because the movie is unfortunately so awkward, it really makes all of the interesting bits sort of feel flat, forced, trite, and like not really effective for at least this viewer. And I noticed also while reading Letterboxd reviews that a lot of people were projecting their own experiences onto the movie, and like
Into the silence?
there's this one person no about like just like what if relationships, and there was this one person who wrote like a fucking essay about like how in high school they had this relationship that was like sort of like this, where it was like this person that they were really into, then they kind of like fell apart for a little bit and they came back together, and it was like this whole thing of like, what if we had actually like been in a relationship? And I just think that's such an interesting way to take it, because I guess it is okay to use media as a way to interpret your own feelings and your own experiences, and relating to a piece of media is sometimes incredibly validating and important, and it makes a movie hit so much harder. However, I don't think it's worth to like heap praise onto this pretty boring movie because you had a relationship similar. I feel like it doesn't make the movie objectively any better. And I think
mean,
the films are so much more effective when you are able to take your subjective experience and put it onto objectively a good movie, and then that is like a really successful film. versus what this was, which is I feel like a lot of people just projecting their own thing onto the movie and being like, it's good because I am like Nora and or Haesung.
I'm guessing that's like what the target audience is
Yeah.
hopeless romantics. Not to throw shade at anybody, but like romantics who who will fill in that dead air with their own experiences or like what is left unsaid and stuff. It's a movie for people like that, which is fine
Right.
for people who are not romantics. For people, I'm an introvert, and I hated this, and stuff like that just is the complete opposite.
Because I think you are right in that it was mostly Small Talk, the movie. And so that's what makes it really hard to engage with or connect with the characters. Yeah. All right. Pretty quick dumping on past lives. What?
Would you rate it, Liam?
I think that my rating is probably going to be 2 stars. Because
yes, I talked you down.
I liked the way that it was shot. I never was gonna rate it anything higher than I think 3, but I think 2 to 2.5 would probably be where this lands for me, just because there are some interesting beginnings of ideas that are never really fully fleshed out.
You fill that in with your entire life story.
Boring.
What are you supposed to?
Boring.
I also like the way that it was shot. I can't think of a single scene that I enjoyed. So it's probably like a low 1.5 stars for me.